Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I'm Michael Adams, my panelist tonight, a co-host from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, the Director of Operations, Scott Crawford. We have a career interview for you, and it hasn't been a long career, but it's been a great career already. We are joined by the Canadian Women's National Team pitcher, Alli Schroder, who debuted at age 16 for Team Canada, and immediately it paid off as she was able to get the win against Team USA and get in the bronze medal game. So welcome, Alli. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Let's jump into this. I got the first couple questions here tonight. So let's go back a bit. You began baseball at 4 years old and played for the Trail Orioles and I hope I say this Cranbrook Bandits.
Um,
Uh, then JL Crow Secondary School. So what were the early days like, and how did you balance baseball with maybe some other sports and also having a life?
yeah, I started playing t-ball when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and it was a very small town. So I was playing with all the boys that I was like going to school with and hanging out with outside of school. So it was a very comfortable environment for me. I never really dealt with anything being a woman in baseball at that time. Um, the closest town with an all-star team is give or take 20 minutes away. So I ended up traveling to Trail to play baseball, and I made my first all-star team when I was 9 or 10. And that was kind of like the first taste of being picked for something, not just playing on a house team. And up until then, I'd been playing like soccer, track and field, random little sporting events to keep me busy and like bring me home tired at the end of the day to my parents. But I really chose baseball when I was like 12. And that was my last year with the All-Star team before I moved up to the big field. So there's no like in between in such small towns in BC. Like it's you go from the Little League field to full-size baseball diamond. So I made that jump when I was 12, which was greatly, it helped me in my career a lot. There was just like it was like you better be able to throw the ball from third base to first base or you're not going to fit in on any team type of thing. And from there, I started playing for the Trail Orioles, which was a U19 team, and we played down into the States. I played there for a couple of years until small town COVID issues. Team ended up folding, and I had to go to Cranbrook to play baseball, and we played in Montana American Legion. Cranbrook is 3.5 hours away, and I was playing and practicing with them. I didn't have my license at the time, so my dad was driving me. So I recognize that now that that was not an easy commitment to have made. But I played with them until I was out of high school, and then since then it's just been college baseball and playing for the national team.
So you mentioned COVID. That goes perfectly for my next question here. You lost the year of playing because of COVID. What did you do during that time to keep your game improving?
At that time, I was living in Fruitvale. I've since moved, but this was the small town I grew up in, and we lived nestled into the mountainside. And I was very isolated during that time. I was one of the only athletes probably still practicing my sport during that time. But it wasn't necessarily new to me. Like our winters are long and they're cold here. So all winter I'm training alone growing up. So that was kind of looked like, working out. I was working out at home. There's a video of me like squatting my King Shepherd dog at the time in my backyard, like holding him in my arms. So it was kind of like makeshift, do what you can and work with what you got, which was a really great prelude into firefighting actually for me. But in terms of baseball, it was like set up a net in the garage and hit two buckets off the tee. Dad did what he could. Kind of gets to the point in a career where dad can't do that much anymore, and it's kind of scary catching a bullpen or throwing batting practice to me, but he did what he could. And I was just kind of keeping myself fresh. I would say the hardest part for me was motivation during COVID. We didn't like, who knows what's going to happen on the national team stage because everything we do is international and borders are closing. Like, we're not allowed to travel outside of Canada. So, without knowing what we were going to be doing, it was more just like, hopefully, there's going to be something for us. But I'm really happy that I was able to keep my motivation through that and work through it.
So, Team Canada at age 16, what was your feelings when you heard you were being added to the team, and how were the nerves the first time you hit that pitching mound?
Yeah, it was quite a build-up. I started going to Cuba as a 13-year-old, which was at the time was the Team Canada identification camp with our manager Andre Lachance at the time. And the first time I went to Cuba, I was 13. My dad came with me. It was my first time out of Canada, and I had a really good showing against the Cuban national team down there. And Andre pulled my dad aside and was like, "We wanted to play for the Team Canada prospect team during the summer. Do you want to tell her? Or do you want me to tell her?" And my dad was like, "You got to be the one to tell her. She's going to be over the moon." So I made the Team Canada prospect team from there and played in three nationals here in Canada with the prospect team, so 13, 14, 15. And when I was 15, there was a trip to Washington, D.C. To play against the U.S. extended team roster. And that was kind of my first taste of making the team. It was like they were, at the time, the selection was done a little bit differently, and they were going to post a video on YouTube with everybody's names of who made the team and like who was going to be traveling with the national team the next day, literally. So I was with my dad and I were kind of like huddled around my phone, and my mom and my sisters were at home watching, just refreshing the page. It was always at midnight too. It was very stressful. Um, and I was just sitting there refreshing the page, and then the video came out, and I was like waiting to see my name, and it thankfully I did. I don't know how I would have reacted otherwise. But that was my first taste of making the national team. And it was an extended roster, but I think I was lucky to have the extended roster experience to understand the standard that the national team holds, and the standard that the Canadian national team holds at that as well. So the next year going into the World Cup and having to make it again, I was like, okay, I know where I need to be at with my mental game and my physical game if I really want to crack this roster. And the following year, I was able to do that as a 16-year-old, which was crazy. And we went down to Florida for the World Cup, and I didn't know what to expect. I just went down as a pitcher only at the time, and I didn't think I was going to get any opportunities, but I made my debut in a start against Australia, and it was not a good start, but we won anyways. I think I gave up like 6 or 7 runs, but our bats were hot. Um, and then to come back against the US, I mean, I was nervous starting against Australia, but I had confidence. Like my coaches, Andre and Aaron at the time, were really pumping my tires and working with me on the confidence piece. So I was like, I got to be confident, or these girls are just going to see right through me. And then being put in against the US was a whole different ball game because of the baseball that they play. And truthfully, going into the bronze medal game, I blacked out after I left the bullpen, and I kind of remember like the last couple pitches.
Hey, Alli, your first couple of years, your first couple of years, or the last couple of years of veterans Amanda, Kate, Ashley, Nicole. What did they teach you on the field and off the field?
Yeah, nowadays on the national team, I'm in a really exciting and important spot to have been part of that era that played with girls like that. Um, I knew Kate kind of knew me as I was coming up through the system and really took me under her wing. I've mentioned in just about every interview that I had a very difficult time with the mental side of the game growing up, and I think part of that was like being selected so young. I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know how to deal with the failures in baseball. But truthfully now, like I look up to Ash more than anything, and Kate helped me so much in my career. I was so fortunate to be surrounded by people like Luch as well. And I think that they just taught me, like, I mean, women's baseball is so complicated because all we have is the World Cup. There's nothing, and I mean, women's sports is moving in the right direction, but women's baseball lags a little bit. And watching how hard they grind for the World Cup and the passion that they play with, even if that's all we have, that's going to be the best showing that Canada has every single year, was so inspiring to me. And they truthfully taught me, like, I've always been proud to be Canadian, but they taught me just like the pride that you need to have when you put on the Canadian jersey is something completely different. And I think that having them on the field with me really changed my career. I don't know what it would have been like if I didn't have mentors like that. But to date in my career, like men's baseball, women's baseball, those three are probably some of the most valuable people in my career to date.
Great to hear. Hey, we're inducting Amanda Essay into the Hall of Fame in 2025, of course, as you know. We've heard all kinds of great things about her. What made Amanda such a great person, such a great teammate?
Amanda was one of the most selfless individuals I've ever met. Me and Amanda kind of tied in with each other in multiple ways in our lives. I am a forestry student. I work for the Ministry of Forests here in British Columbia, and Amanda did as well in the same town that I live in. So immediately I was like, oh my gosh, Amanda, she like embodies everything that I want to do in life, and really looked up to her. And she also took me under her wing. And I just remember being on the field with her the first few times wearing the Canada jersey, and I was like, she is the best teammate I've ever played with, let alone her playing ability. Like, she was such an incredible pitcher. She could catch, she was a great hitter. But it's so much more than that, than her accomplishments, just statistical wise. She would pick anybody up on the field. Like, she could be having the absolute game of her life, headed towards the all-world team at the World Women's Baseball World Cups, and she would pull any player aside, like somebody at Ash's level, somebody at my level as a 15, 16-year-old, and she wouldn't make you feel like you're having a bad game. She was just there for you, and the advice that she gave was so invaluable. She could be seriously like having the season of her life, and you ask her about it, and she would be talking about the team. She'd be talking about her teammates. She would never talk about herself. Um, and that's something like I've taken that with me, and every time I catch myself kind of in those selfish moments, because it's baseball, you think about your personal performance as well as the team's performance. It's so valuable to me now to be able to remind myself, like, Amanda wouldn't do that. Let's think of the team here. And I'm really thankful to have shared the field with her.
So 2021, VIU, the Mariners, first woman athlete in the Canadian college baseball program. Was there an adjustment to playing in the college game? And in all honesty, tell me, how much fun is it striking out men?
Yeah, I was playing pretty high level baseball as I rolled into college baseball. Like, I was playing U19 American Legion baseball in Montana State, and those some of the guys I was playing with were going to Division I universities. Like, we would see 90. We would face like high 80s consistently, and the boys on my team were also bound for college baseball as well. So it was an adjustment for sure. I was really worried about it at first, but it's probably a good thing that I was worried about it, because I showed up and it was like, okay, if I work hard, I can hang with the guys here. And I mean, I mentioned this in a few other interviews, but like when my coach was talking to my college coach, he never mentioned that I was a girl. He just said, I have a pitcher for you that sits 80, hard slider, good changeup. Is this what you're looking for? And he was like, yes. And that's when, by the way, she's a girl came along, and my college coach didn't care. So he really picked me up and took me under his wing the second I got there. And I never, like, the guys at that level they were there to play baseball. They're there to play baseball and go to school. So I never faced anything in terms of that in college, but I didn't really know what to expect in terms of my role on the team. I kind of went in prepared, like I could close, I could start. I still had the stamina to start because I was starting for the national team, but anticipating I would be like short relief, probably long relief with my stamina, and just ready to slide into any situation that they needed me in. Like, I wanted to contribute to the team and earn my spot on the team. And I was lucky. My first few appearances went really, really well. Striking guys out when my team hasn't really seen me do that before. They're pretty hyped. They're pretty excited because I've never played with any of these boys before. So now I'm striking out like grown men. I had been striking out at teenagers before, but now I'm striking out like grown men. Was pretty exciting, and I got the team hyped. If anything, like, it would really light a fire under us if we were down in a game and suddenly I'm striking out like some of these team's top players, which was really exciting. I think it was a good dynamic that I brought to the team for sure.
Hey, you talk so highly of Ashley over the years as a teammate and a person and whatnot. You won the Ashley Stevenson Award in 2022. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, for me, I had previously won the Women's National Team Futures Award, which is, I guess, sure enough, it's all dynamics of the game, but it was mostly that playing wise, I was a promising player that was coming up through the program. So to kind of completely switch gears and now go towards the Ashley Stevenson Award, which is a completely different aspect of the game, that was actually a huge moment in my career because up until then, I really struggled with the mental game, like, and it brought me down as a teammate sometimes. I wasn't able to show up for my team in the best form that I now am able to because I was so beat up on the mistakes that I was making and how they were contributing to the team. So to have that one year where Ash was actually our manager that year, and that was kind of the first year that I had been on the field, that Ash was not on the field with us. It was a huge hole to fill, and we obviously didn't have Amanda with us either. So I really wanted to adopt that role. I really wanted to be a good teammate to people, and I wanted the other team to see that I was a leader, like that you have to get past all of us if you're going to beat us, and embody that leadership role. So I think that that was a really pinnacle moment in my career because it was like, okay, I finally, like, I've taken these bad habits that I've had my entire career, not just in baseball. I mean, I was always hard on myself with like school and other sports as well. And it's fine. I've finally changed that and made better habits from it. And I'm now able to show up for my team as a leader and as a good teammate. And honestly, any opinion like coming from Ash, she gave me the award at the award banquet, I think, if I remember correctly. And that was a huge moment for me, for her to be the one acknowledging that I'm now kind of embodying the leader presence on the team.
All right, two more questions for you, Allie here. What's happening in British Columbia for women's baseball these days? Is it growing? Is it sort of neutral? How is it going for women's baseball out in British Columbia?
Yeah, I have been a little bit disconnected from the BC baseball program for a couple of years. It kind of comes in the sense that I can't take 4 or 5 weeks off during the summer. So unfortunately, I just don't have the ability to go play with them at nationals anymore. But I'm still friends with everybody, all the coaches, and see what's happening on social media. And it would appear that our grassroots program is absolutely skyrocketing for women's baseball. There's so many avenues in the Lower Mainland now for women to be playing baseball. And Ash mentioned last week in our Hall of Fame podcast, like, it starts from the ground up, and you need to develop players from a young age. And I think that's exactly what's happening in BC right now. We're seeing so many avenues for girls to be able to start young and then set a goal. I'm going to play for Team BC. I'm going to play for Team Canada, because I didn't have that when I was growing up. So I think that because they have these avenues and it's so well advertised now, they're seeing more interest in the actual program, and they're getting the numbers that we need to be able to be developing girls from such a young age and be pushing them towards the provincial team. And then at that point, they'll be able to set their sights on the national team. So I think that everything in BC right now is moving in the right direction, and we certainly are developing women's baseball, and it's an active cause happening right now.
Wonderful to see. You see that in Ontario a lot too, so
Mhm.
that is great. Question about your day job. Tell us about being a firefighter in British Columbia. I know you talked about it some, and you're pretty proud of it, and we saw a video on social media the other day about it. But tell us about your job as a firefighter in BC.
Yeah, so I work for the BC Wildfire Service on a unit crew. A unit crew is Canadians' hotshot crew, which is a 20, give or take 22-person crew. And we basically work in 14-day increments. So outside of the 14 days, if there's no fires and we're not being deployed, we're just at base, and you could imagine it like a fire department job. We're keeping things tight. We're keeping them clean, organized, as tidy as you could ever imagine. And we also do project work because we are the Forest Service in BC, so we'll help with parks, fuel mitigation type of thing. But the big part that everybody always wants to hear about is when we get deployed. So we basically have an hour response time to our base, but within that hour, we need to be wheels rolling to anywhere in the province. Kind of for perspective, it takes us like 2.5 days from where I live in the southeast corner of British Columbia to get to the Yukon border, and we can respond anywhere within that radius. So once we are deployed to a fire, it's a 14-day shift. Those daily shifts are, in my experience, like they can be anywhere from 12 hours, but they can also be like 18 hours, 16, 18-hour shifts. 14, 16 is the most common shift that I work. And after those 14 days, we come home. We get traditionally 2 days off. Nowadays, we're getting close, more like 4 days off, but definitely no more than 4. And then we're out the door again during peak wildfire season. So it's kind of go, go, go. It's very strenuous job. Our daily tasks can look like fighting a small ground fire, or we can be fighting 20-foot flames above our heads. So there's a lot of dynamic environments in the workplace. But it's a very exciting job. It's a very rewarding job, and climate change is something that everybody in Canada is dealing with right now. So it's really nice, from my perspective, to be able to be actually helping, not just saying, oh, I would like to help with that, but to be actually on the front line, helping and seeing what we're doing make a difference.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. This is exciting times coming for you.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for having me.
A reminder, everybody hit that like, subscribe, notification button. Always very important. We thank Scott Crawford from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame as well. Everyone have a great night.